Guess who's back? Back again. Will and James are back. Tell a friend. Oh, what a return as well. I'm back from Sri Lanka. The most relaxing 2 weeks of my life, pretty much. James has finally got himself a new job. He's back on the working wagon again, like the rest of us, pulling in the big bucks. And, you know, a mood of celebration in our personal lives. And West Ham, as is their way, decided to, no, we don't swear on this podcast, but there's no other way of putting it really, is shit all over that by losing 6-0 at home to Arsenal on Sunday. James said to me just before we came on the podcast, let's ease our way back into it, shall we? Had a couple of weeks off. Mid-season annual leave isn't what we normally do, I must admit. We normally have a little Christmas break. But James started a new job. I had a holiday, a long booked holiday to take. And James wants to ease his way back in to the We Are West Ham podcast. Thanks to all of you, those of you who messaged both of us or the podcast, either individually or together or whatever over the period of time, telling us how much you missed us and how much you were looking forward to the content when we returned. James, I'm delighted to see you again. You're looking very chipper. You look like you've got the weight of the world off of your shoulders. Now you're an employed man once again and can finally provide for your wonderful family. Tell me, how exactly would you like, how does one or do two people, podcasters, friends, colleagues, business partners ease their way back into a podcast after 2 weeks off when we've lost 6-0 to Arsenal the day before we've recorded?
Well, I suppose first of all, it's good to see your face again. Expected a bit of tan, but beyond that, it's good to see you.
I've had a few compliments on it today, to be fair. Maybe
it could be the lighting. But one thing you didn't say that I told you before we started recording was the reason why we should ease it in is because no one wants to listen to more than an hour, 45 minutes of me and you having a moan about West Ham after witnessing what we witnessed on Sunday. People just don't care anymore.
No.
Well, I definitely don't. Yeah, let's spare people the moans and the groans.
Yeah,
for
I tell you what,
no longer than we really need to.
No, I quite agree with you on that. I'll tell you what, then let's sort of start. We'll ease in. Firstly, tan wise, right? I've had lots of compliments on it today. I was impressed. But one thing I will say is I'm in my early 30s now, right? We started this podcast and me and you first met. I was a much younger man, 26, 27, when we came into each other's lives. And in those days, I would have been a bit more haphazard. This was my first proper grown-up holiday as far as like sunscreen goes. I think this is the first holiday I can remember in my life where I didn't have at least like 48 hours of being really like in pain and uncomfortable from sunburn.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was even got to the stage where I was putting factor 30 on, and that is unheard of. Obviously, I had a few days of the factor 20 bronzing oil, like early days, but that can, you can get a little bit uncomfortable as it goes on. I was putting factor 30 on by the end. I think it's because I'm in the aging years. Like I'm looking really sort of like haggard and tired. Some people will say that's what supporting my stand for all of your life does, and I do agree that a lot of these stress lines on my face are probably from that. But yeah, I've been very, very sensible with the old suntan lotion, and yeah, I feel like I'm sort of got a nice tan. I got a few compliments on it at my return to the office today, but not like so bad where, you know, I've sort of risked long-term skin damage and potentially skin cancer just for a couple of weeks for looking a bit brown, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're
I'm
saying about.
not interested, mate. Get melanomas and get brown.
No, mate. Well, I mean, coming from someone that has such fair skin, I might as well be a ginger. I mean, I literally, I've got to just look at the sun and I go red, and then I go brown later in the line.
That's what everyone says. You burn so easily, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I go brown in a fortnight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it takes me a while. Yeah. I cook first and then kind of just peter out. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last holiday I had where I I didn't have at least 24 hours of going, oh, that hurts. Put my t-shirt
Yeah,
on.
I can't really
And
lay on any sides to go to sleep.
I've had two separate holidays where I've fallen asleep in the sun and severely scalded my legs to the point where like I'm borderline wondering whether I should go to hospital about this because it's terrible.
Yeah.
So I you don't need to talk to me about being very careful in the sun because I know all about that, and I still really haven't learned my lesson, if I'm honest.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's sort of my thing covered. By the way, I think we spoke about this off pod. Not getting paid at all here. This is not an ad. Go to Sri Lanka, everyone. What an amazing country.
We're not getting paid by the Sri Lankan government or the Sri Lankan tourism board.
Yeah, I'm not paying. I'm not sponsoring the We Are West Ham podcast. Our primary sponsor remains Miriam Errington Conveyancing. And what a wonderful and treasured partnership that is. So yeah, go to Australia and go and see Miriam for all of your conveyancing needs when you're buying and selling properties down under. That is a paid sponsorship. But yeah, the Sri Lankan Tourism Board haven't given us any money, but it is a quality country. So yeah, do go there. I've released some little baby turtles, James, that are just hatched on the beach. Yeah, proper wholesome stuff.
I'm very jealous.
Yeah, really wholesome stuff. Yeah, that was amazing. What else did we do? Saw some elephants, wild elephants. That was cool. Wild water buffalo. Saw a wild leopard, but it was like 1,000 yards away, and you sort of just saw its tail poking out of
which to be honest, is as far away as you want a leopard to be, really, isn't it? You don't want it to be any closer.
This much is true. Yeah. If anything, if it was like, I saw a leopard from like 10 yards. You'd be a little bit worried, wouldn't you? Yeah. Went to Sigiriya, saw an ancient rock top fortress. That was really cool. Yeah, seriously, if you're listening. Oh, Rob, I think it was Rob Dowden. Excuse me, Rob, if I've got your surname wrong there. Sent me a message. I put it out on my Instagram before I went about where I should go and stay. And Rob came back and told me to go and stay at the Heritance Tea Factory up in the hill country. And really, really nice bloke. He gave me lots of Rob Rowe, this is on Instagram, lots of tips. And I went and stayed at the hotel he told me to, one of the podcast listeners. So yeah, absolutely amazing. Talk to me then, James, about your new job. You're finally back on the treadmill. How does it feel?
It feels amazing. It feels. Last week was my first full week of employment for about 5 months. So I won't lie, I was absolutely knackered by 5 p.m. Friday. But yeah, I'm very happy to be back in amongst it, doing what I love doing, working in digital publishing. And I'm really excited for what's coming. Obviously, I told you over the weekend that it was a bit of a slow start, slow integration into the business, but very excited for what's to come. I know I'm going to enjoy it there, and it was well worth the wait. It was well worth the months of worry and all money's running out. The first couple of months was a bit like, it's fine, I'm fine, it's fine.
Love this.
And then suddenly it was getting a little bit like, oh, hang on, this is not
squeaky bum
time.
This
is getting.
This is the opposite of fine.
Yeah, and it's something popped up through contacts. It wasn't an advertised job. It was an old contact who knew someone, a few conversations, an impromptu drive up to Peterborough to meet a couple of people. And next thing I know, I got an offer on the table. So happy days. Very happy.
Right, well played, mate. Well played. My holiday's good. You're employed. Our personal lives are going okay. That's great news. I don't really think we can swerve it. Have you got any other possible topics we can discuss prior to getting onto the inevitable West Ham chat?
No, let's just get it out of the way.
All right, fine. Have you got just before we get?
Yeah.
All right, fine. Just before we get onto it, have you got any sort of tips, tricks, or ideas, given the fact that we had a pact on the podcast that we weren't going to do the Moyes in or out chat anymore, I can't really be bothered to do that this week. I know it's sort of the thing to talk about. Like, I think we'll talk about the game first and what a sort of capitulation it was. A bit of a summary of sort of, I'm sure January stuff will get included in that as well, because we haven't spoken since then. Do you intend to? Because I did see you try and bait me out on Twitter over the weekend. But you know what? Actually, I'm going to get on to you about this in a little while, I think. But have you got any thoughts, first of all, actually, before I give it to you both barrels about your tweeting at the weekend, about how we're going to avoid the Moyes in and Moyes out debate?
Well, I don't have any advice on how we're going to do that. I do think it's the elephant that has returned to the room, and
I think we ignore it still.
I genuinely don't think we can avoid it for much longer. I know we said not going to talk about it at the end of the season, but I think since the last time we spoke, so much has happened that gives weight towards that subject coming back. But we can gloss over it. We can gloss over it. I mean, I can't lie. I will probably make reference to it at some point on this podcast, because
we made a pact, mate. We're supposed to be blood brothers.
I will make reference to it, but I'll try not to go into too much detail until next week. How's that?
You sound a bit like Donald Trump there, where he's just like, look, you know, if I get into office, I know we've signed NATO agreements and pacts with the UN, but if I get into office, I'm going to break them. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fine. I'll tell you what. We'll do that in its own section next up. I've been out there of action for so long, I totally forgot that we're supposed to get opposition views on. So I haven't organised one at the moment, but I will try and do that before this podcast goes out. So hopefully this show will sound like me and James dissecting the Arsenal game next, and a bit more sort of wide-reaching stuff, given that it's been a couple of weeks since we spoke to you. Then we'll try and hopefully you'll have an opposition view from Nottingham Forest after that, ahead of the game at the City Ground on Saturday. That's how we hope the show will go. Minor thoughts from me and James at the end, but that's how it will go. Please do follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. I'm at William Pugh_. James is at by James Jones. Follow us on Instagram as well at We Are West Ham Pod. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. Just search We Are West Ham Podcast on YouTube. We would appreciate that very much indeed. And of course, don't forget, you can buy us a pint if you want at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. And yeah, they start for £5 each. Money goes directly to me and James, and we only spend it on beers when we're together, or podcast equipment, guests, licensing fees, whatever, to make the show better for you guys. And sometimes we spend it on away trips too. But yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that for the first European game. I hope it's not our last one. So yeah, if you fancy chipping in to the general fund, the podcast free, but if you fancy chucking us a couple of quid, then you can do it. buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. I think that's all of I actually deactivated, James, my personal Facebook while I was on holiday, because I haven't used it for an awfully long time. And I did get a warning message saying I might inadvertently deactivate the We Are West Ham podcast Facebook page. But frankly, we don't use it very often. It's the one we least check. So yeah, if that has disappeared and you're wondering where it's gone, I'm very sorry, but we do actually check and use the Instagram and Twitter far more often, so go and follow us on those pages. Right, that's it. 14 minutes and 10 seconds of the record gone so far. You've had holiday updates, you've had job updates, you've had urges to go and follow us on social media, and of course leave us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and that's as much delaying as we can possibly do. So we are going to have to talk about West Ham 0, Arsenal 6 next. Right, James, don't really know where to start. That was a complete lie. I definitely know where to start. You had one of the quintessential James Jones like Twitter flurries on the weekend after Arsenal. And you know what I love the most about it, right? I'm going to start, I think, with one of these ones, and I think what I love the most about your sort of Twitter rants like these is the fact that it's so obvious you've had a beer. That's what.
yeah.
That's what's always my favourite. I mean, so I'm just gonna like blitz through a few here. Arsenal fans singing 10 more years for Declan Rice, completely oblivious to the irony that they thought he was overrated 6 months ago. Yeah, well, that's a nice one to start the day off. Arsenal fans thinking that was a statement 45 minutes when they've just come up against the West Ham team that has been so poor for months. I mean, we were sixth going into the game, but fair enough. It wasn't that long ago. I'd never been prouder to be a West Ham fan. Now I've never been more ashamed. Gutless, the lot of them. Okay, right, yeah. I feel that feels like about a 5-pint tweet, that one. Right, let me get to my favourite one here, though. I don't know. Surely you haven't. I
have deleted a few, to be fair.
Have you? Oh, that is annoying.
Yeah, I did. I woke up this morning and had a little look, and I was like, "Oh,
no, here you go." You say that, right? This is the one, right? I'm in actual shock at the pelters West Ham fans are getting for leaving early today. 4-0 down at half time, 0 effort from players, 0 effort from manager. Yet you expect working class, money paying fans to put up with it. Clap them all off and be happy about it. F off. Now, you know, a great tweet, right? A great tweet.
That's a good engagement,
yeah, great engagement. 27k views that got. I was so close, and I didn't do this because you are my friend and I care about you an awful lot. I was so close to just replying and going, working class fans paying money to put up with it. Weren't you in the posh seats on a freebie this very day? Haven't you tweeted this from a posh seat that you haven't paid for? Yes or no?
Yeah, that is true, to be fair. But that's everyone knows that I would much prefer to not be in the posh seats and be amongst the peasants, amongst the rest of the peasants. But this time I was treating some family who are Arsenal fans to a day out. Courtesy of Chad and Betway, so thank you to Chad and Betway for organising it for me. It was a really good day.
Charity partners of the We Are West Ham podcast, of course.
The irony of that tweet is not lost on me.
Yeah. Well, I love how you've gone through and deleted some as well. Honestly, I was like, I did it because I care about you, because you'd had obviously people engaging in the tweet, and I was like, I can't just do it to him. But I was so close to being like, well, hang on a minute. You weren't one of those working class fans who paid good money today. And I'm pretty sure you stayed till the end because of the free beers and wine that you had to go back to.
You say that. I mean, let's put this right. I stayed in the stadium until well beyond kickoff, full time. But I left my seat the moment Declan Rice scored. I got up and I went, I can't watch this anymore. I left the rest of my family sitting there amongst West Ham fans, and they're like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm not staying. I'm not watching this. And I went back and sat at my table where I couldn't watch any more of the game, and finished off the pint that I'd left there and a little bit of whiskey that I'd left there from half time. And didn't watch the rest of the game.
Whiskey, and free pint, by the way.
And and I spent the majority of the second half having a moan to one of the waiters. Poor bloke. He must have been like, proper chewing his ear off. Chewing his ear off, and
just there to subsidise his university grant money, getting 10 quid an hour.
Yeah,
thank you, mate.
Yeah, he was mate. You know, I could just feel it got to the point where even though I'd had a few drinks, I could tell that he just didn't care.
Yeah, it's just Lee, do you want another whiskey shot?
I'm not having it, mate. I'm not having it. They've even let that geezer score. I can't believe it. But so
I played basketball, mate.
That's it. But I if I was in my season ticket seat, I would have left the stadium 100%. I would have gone.
Yeah, no, mate, fair play. So me too. Like, yeah, I'm not even going to give that any credence, but I'm only going to give that, oh, you're not proper fans if you stay credence, in as much as it's vital context for this next tweet of yours I'm going to read out. Chris Sutton, Wally, by the way. I'm not even going to, everyone will have seen his like cringy attempts at like trying to be a bait merchant, trying to stay relevant. And to be fair, the ending of your tweet here is actually quite sound, but just, with the very important context that James was on a freebie in the posh sheets for Arsenal at home at the weekend. Replying to Chris Sutton on Twitter, James says, "Idiot. Fans pay their money to watch their team compete." I'm just looking for the brackets that said not me.
Hang on. You're making out like I'll never pay for to go to West Ham.
No, I'm just
making out like I'll never pay. I pay for a season ticket every single year, pretty much of my entire life. I get one freebie a year, and it just happens to be this 1 week that I had to freebie.
Hey, mate, look, I love
it.
a freebie as much as the next man, as you well know. I'm just saying it's quite a bold stance on the day of taking the freebie that you've sent out quite a few fans talking about fans paying their money. Fans pay their money to watch their team compete. You wouldn't hang about in a bad restaurant just to get behind the chef if you weren't happy with what he'd already served up. That right there is a stonker of an analogy, James. I'm famous on this podcast for tripping over a few of mine. The fact you put that one out 22 hours ago. So what's that? I mean, yeah, we're talking 9:30 then. So you're well deep.
I was steaming, and I was in. My brother-in-law was driving us back to Bury, and I was in the. He was stone cold sober, and I'm having a moan at him, going, "I'm going to tweet Chris Sutton," and he's just like, "They didn't even know who that is," and I was just like, "Don't worry about it." But yeah.
The end bit of your tweet, though, clear example of an ex-player turned pundit who has no idea what it's really like to be a fan. Fair play. Like, the nice little typo in the last one just sort of confirmed to me clear example of ex-player turned pundit. Like that is not bad for 10 pints or 12 whiskies or whatever you'd had. Another tweet, James, that you retweeted, a really interesting one. Tony Cotti, friend of the show, of course, friend of the podcast. He tweeted, "Absolute shambles. Club will never change with this board. No investment in the window and a manager with 5 months left on his contract. Players' tactics and the result were poor today. Where do we go from here? I don't know." Decent point from Tony about 5 months left on his contract. He hasn't slagged David Moyes off there. You retweeted that. We sort of know, till we were lucky enough, got Tony's first exclusive interview that he gave after his announcement that he was sort of joining up with PIP, was it?
Pi Capital, wasn't it? PAI.
Pi Capital, that was it. Yeah. To sort of launch a bid, obviously never comes to fruition in the end. So we know Tony's not a big fan of the board. Just interesting, really. What did you make of that? Because I said he hasn't sort of gone in on the manager there. Well, he said tactics, I suppose. What did you make of Tony's tweet? It's sort of not really flavour of the month at the moment to blame the board for stuff, is it? Everyone's tripping over themselves to blow smoke up the backside of Tim Stuyton. Yet the fact that now when people are annoyed that Ben Johnson played left wing because Pablo Fornals and Said Benrahma in that left wing position were let go, that all of a sudden is David Moyes' fault. It's sort of, there's still a lot of flexing facts to suit agendas going on. I'm not suggesting for a second Tony's done that at all there. What did you make of that tweet from Tony afterwards? You obviously retweeted it. Is it one that you sort of? Is it easy to blame the board? I don't know. It's not really what people are doing at the moment, is it?
Well, I think we're beginning to see a little bit more of it. I think we are beginning to hear some rumours that David Sullivan essentially vetoed any kind of move for a player in January beyond the Calvin Phillips loan. Essentially stopped us spending any money. But then sanctioned two left wingers being sold, not replacing it. We're beginning to hear that actually it wasn't David Moyes, it wasn't Tim Steaton, it was David Sullivan that basically refused to spend any money. I don't know what the financial fair play situation is with the club, but I find it very hard to believe that
with
we're
the
anywhere
Declan Rice
near.
cash,
We're anywhere
we're doing
near.
okay.
We must be able to throw loads of money at players still.
Well, we spent a lot
and
of
be
it. To
absolutely
be
fine.
fair, let's give the club credit.
We spent a
spent
lot of
at
it,
Rice
but
money, didn't we? But we're not
you know,
like
I think
sailing close to the wind.
no, I think I worked it out that over even in the summer, if you take even when you take into account the Declan Rice money and then what we spent, I think we were still. And when you factor in the fact that Declan Rice money is 100% profit as well, I think we were only spent like 30 million quid. So we must be well within the laws when it comes to that. So then it makes you wonder, okay, well, has he, if it is true, then has he done it because he's still got question marks over whether David Moyes is going to be the manager long term? Why would you buy a manager, a load of players in January if you're not sure whether he's going to be in charge 6 months down the line? There's that. But you're beginning to see a lot more people start pointing fingers at the board again. So
I just thought it was a bit of a peculiar one. Yeah. This is an interesting tweet earlier on, right? Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph, really like decent operator. A 6-0 defeat is very bad, but talking about offering somebody a contract on the back of some great form and then stalling 6 weeks later on the back of some poor form does not demonstrate good strategy or planning. It strikes me as a ridiculous way to run a football club. That's Matt Law from the Telegraph there. And frankly, I completely make him right. It was very much felt like that sort of information about David Moyes' contract, which was leaked after a good run of form, was sort of let out in order to test the water and test the reaction among fans. I think is my personal opinion. It was done just to sort of see how fans would react to that. And I think it was sort of overall at the time, fans going, yeah, fair enough, because Matt makes a good point there about stability needed. But I agree with him. It felt a little bit sort of knee jerk to do it just after we performed well, but we were going great guns in the league. But the fact that it wasn't announced and that it just been sort of let out that, West Ham are close to agreeing a deal with David Moyes felt more of a test. And it's like if the club was sure about it, they'd just agree it and announce it so there's stability ahead of that transfer window. But now to sort of, if they are this stalling like they're talking about, like one way or the other, being in the middle of February, not knowing who the manager's going to be next season, just feels like the club need to make they need to like pick a side, one or the other, right? Don't they? Where they pin their flags to the mast and go, right, it's David Moyes, and accept that you need to be brave enough to accept the wrath of some fans, right? You need to either go soonish, or even at the time they released the original news, you need to go, no, we're backing him. I know lots of you don't like the style of play, but lots of you don't mind it and appreciate the improvements in performance, i.e. performance in the league and in the cup competitions, namely Europe. And this is what we want for our club. This is what West Ham are going to be for a while. And as soon as the results stop and the style of play is bad, then like any football club, we'll make a change. But while the results keep coming, however they come, we're sticking with it. Or you go, no, look, we've decided a change is in place now, and we do side with some of the fans who think it can get better on the eye whilst maintaining the results. So we're going to roll the dice. Be brave, or not be brave, just make a decision. You're the ones with the purse strings. Make a decision. It just seems like Matt sort of makes a good point there, I think, where it just seems whether you're Moyes in or out, right? Whatever side of the fence you sit on, it does just seem a little bit, I don't know, sort of unprofessional and a little bit amateurish.
Well, I tweeted earlier that I was stone cold sober this morning when I tweeted this one.
I don't think you were, mate.
I'm
not sure you are now.
It's beginning to. This season is beginning to have serious Sam Allardyce last season vibes.
Oh, that was another one of your tweets. Let me read it out then. Fine.
No. That season we were fourth at Christmas. We failed to strengthen in January to build on that, and we ended up finishing 12th. Yeah. Compare that to this season. We were fifth or sixth at Christmas.
It was after managed that to make sixth,
we've managed to make our squad weaker in January. And now we've without a win in 2024 after 7 games, and have gone from being solidly in the top 6, top 7 to, we're probably 2 defeats away from dropping out the top 10. And it's like, well, this is exactly what happened with and then he ended up announcing that he'd left the club 2 minutes after the full-time whistle, the last game of the season, and it feels like it's heading that way. It genuinely feels like it's heading that way. So many similarities to it, and I just feel like the club don't know what they want to do. They're going to leave it until the very last minute, and as a result of that, it's going to have a knock-on effect on the performance of the team, one way or another. Because I think the uncertainty isn't going to benefit the team. It's not going to benefit the manager. It's not going to benefit the players who don't know where they're going to be coming or going in the summer, who they're going to be playing for.
No.
I don't know. That's the way. It's going at the moment. I don't think it might do, but I don't want it to go that way. Obviously, I'd rather just make a decision, like you said. But it's deja vu.
You know what's funny though, mate? Talk about deja vu, right? And look, I don't. If anyone's thinking, "Oh, why aren't you ripping the game to pieces?" I'm not certain it needs it. Frankly, I mean, we'll touch on it briefly in a minute, but. Look, we got humped 6-0 at home to Arsenal. We're not the podcast of screaming down the camera, making fools of ourselves, going, "Oh, it's a disgrace," just for sort of clout or Twitter likes. You lost 6-0 at home to Arsenal. It was rubbish. Declan Rice scored a goal he could have only dream of scoring against West Ham. The over celebration, get over yourself, mate. We've beaten you twice this season. You scored the 6th goal when we were already beaten. The old over celebration's pathetic. Just jog back up the pitch if you don't want to celebrate. Don't do the old, everyone, look how sad and upset I am. We're losing 5-0. Don't really give a stuff that you've scored an extra one that makes it 6. But we've got Nottingham Forest, Brentford. Nottingham Forest away, Brentford at home, Everton away, Burnley at home, next 4 games, right? As is the style and the way under David Moyes, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we get 10 points out of them 4 games. Seriously. Because it's almost like sort of, it tends to go like that under Moyes, doesn't it? Just when things seem to be getting really bad, a few results come from nowhere and the table looks okay again. And then, it sort of fuels the fire of those of us and those in the media or pundits or whoever who are, who sort of will defend David Moyes and say, well, look where West Ham are in the table. Mate, would you honestly be surprised, genuinely? I know it's rubbish the last couple of weeks, but I don't really feel like losing again away at Man United and losing to Arsenal would have been that much of a surprise at the beginning of the season. Ultimately, it's the Bournemouth at home that I think is the real stickler. Sheffield United away is annoying because they are pence. So those are 2 games where ideally we'd have got 4 more points than we've had. But would you be surprised, honestly, if we go and get results of those next 4 games? Everton probably will be tough. We never win there. But they've got theirs culpable as well. Mate, honestly, I reckon 10 points from the next 4, probably 9.
I do love your optimism. I wouldn't be surprised, to answer your question, but I do not see
they won't be ugly, but
I don't see it happening. I don't see us going. I don't see us getting Nottingham Forest to get a result. Not the way we're playing at the moment. If you just look at this season, we played 7 games. Not won a single one of them. We failed to beat Bristol City across 2 games.
This year, right?
This year, sorry. We failed to beat Sheffield United, who were rock bottom of the league. And before this weekend, we're looking set on beating Derby's record for fewest points. We were very, very lucky to come away with a 1-1 draw at home to Bournemouth, right? The Man United game actually was our best performance of 2024. 3-0 massively flat. I don't know whether you managed to watch it in Sri Lanka, but 3-0 flat at Man United. And we played well that day. We genuinely did. It felt a bit unfair that we lost that game 3-0. And then the Arsenal, I think the 6-0 game against Arsenal, it was coming. It was coming. A result like that was coming, based on the performances that we've had so far this year. So as a result, I can't see us getting a result in any of the next 4 games. But I wouldn't be surprised if we win in 1 or 4 of them, because it's what we do. It's what David Moyes does. The moment you think he's gone, I've said it so many times, the moment you think he's a goner, he puts on a run of results, and we'll end up back in Europe again next year, and you'll be like, how have you managed that?
Still be fuming about it.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did see it. It's one of those. But don't
ones, well, I'll put it this way. Then I'll put it to you this way: how many times this season, right, have we got results that you didn't see coming? It feels like someone. I read a really good tweet over the weekend. I should have bookmarked it or whatever, but someone said it just at the moment. Supporting West Ham feels like you're in a paradox where you're like, what you're watching on the pitch just doesn't tally up with the league table you look at, where it's just like, oh, I'm watching West Ham play in one universe, and then whenever I get my phone out, I'm checking a Premier League table from a parallel universe, because what I'm looking at London Stadium every week is not what I'm seeing when I open my phone and get the Premier League table up. And I just sort of feel that just sort of feels like the way it is at West Ham, where like even games we win, we don't dominate. So I sort of think we play in a way that perhaps lulls you into thinking we're playing badly, when it's probably not. We're just playing unattractively. We're actually probably really efficient and playing well at the style of play that David Moyes wants us to play. But then I think the problem with that is that when it does go wrong, it looks abjectly terrible, doesn't it? It looks abjectly bad when it does go wrong, and the results and you don't rescue a result, or not rescue, but they don't produce results. But yeah, there is, it's a little bit of a concern, isn't it? But I realistically, right, we'll do it briefly then, so as not to bore people. Nottingham Forest, I mean, we're still 8th, right? And as we've said so many times, I know it's not just about that, so I'm making an effort not to just reduce it to, oh, you would have taken 8th at the beginning of the season, because we both said that on this podcast. We both said 8th would be a great finish, and I acknowledge that there's more to the situation than just purely where you finish in the league. The next, how bad does it get is what I'm saying, because in the next 4 games, you know, what's like, nah, time to go, mate.
Well, I think if we lose the next 2, if we lose the next 2,
Forest away, Brentford at home, you can't be losing them.
No, and I think if we do lose the next 2, then I think I don't see him surviving beyond that.
I reckon he gets to the end of the Burnley game, whatever happens.
Yeah, I mean, if we lose that, I mean, someone tweeted that apparently that Burnley game is on the anniversary of the Burnley pitch invasions, 6-7 years ago. It's on,
Really?
it's on the exact same day. And he's sitting there going, oh, God, not another one. It almost feels like we're building up to it happening again against Burnley, aren't we? But I don't know. I just think if he loses those 2 games, I don't know, just don't survive. Because if you lose those 2 and other results go against us, and we go into that Burnley game 11th in the league, and it's a far cry from us being top 6, top 7 contenders.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's a difficult
I just
one.
feel like, I just feel like the club's in a bit of limbo at the moment. And I think really, I mean, as we've seen before, and perhaps it's naive to expect the board to act decisively, but it just feels like now is a time to go for it. Because it's just, even if like David Moyes does end up going at the end of the season, I just feel like that West Ham, the hierarchy, have got to decide what they want. It's all very well us on fan podcasts and journalists and whoever sort of talking about, what's good for West Ham, what's not, whether fans should be pleased and impressed by what they're seeing or whether they shouldn't be. It's about the owners deciding what they want from the club. And if they go, no, look, we're happy with this. We're still in and around the top half. It might not be pretty, but it's effective and it's getting results. Everyone was annoyed last season because we were sort of bottom half of the table, and rightfully so. And I said it, if he doesn't win the Conference League, it's time for a change. But he did, so you can't ignore that. I don't know. It just feels like I can just see it going exactly as it's gone, right? And I reckon he could easily get 9 points. I reckon, honestly, mate, I bet you, I'll have a bet with you now. There's no way that I reckon we'll get at least 7 points from the next 4 games. And then we're playing Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham after that. And easily you could see us lose all 3 of them. But no, you know what we're like? We'll just sneak and we'll somehow win away at Newcastle or something. That no one really saw coming, and it's an away performance as well, so no one's sort of seen it in the flesh, so they don't tend to allay home fans' concerns as much. And I just think we'll sort of stumble through, and we'll probably be going into those last 4 games are minging, aren't they? Liverpool at home, Chelsea away, Luton at home, City away. I reckon I wouldn't be surprised if we go into the last 4 games 6th or 7th. And it's still sort of on the cards for us to get a Champions League spot. And then we lose all 4 and finish 11th or something. And it's just all proper underwhelming. But that just is the nature of it, isn't it? I just think that's the nature of it. And I think as a club owner, it's that stability that they probably like. But rather than just coming out and making a statement and being like, this is the club we are trying to be for now, I feel like you do just as much damage, if not more, by just not saying anything or not doing anything and just waiting for things to rumble on, because it should shape all of your transfer policies. Conversations should be going on at the moment, shouldn't they? Right? Tim Stuyton should be going out, tapping up players, having the words with agents. Right? West Ham like your man in the summer. This is where we see him fitting into the team. This is where he sees fitting him into David Moyes' style of play. Or, right, we're making a change in the summer. The club's going in a new direction. We've got a new strategy. It's been brilliant under Moyes, but, the fans are demanding a better brand of football. And, we think the foundation that David's built, we can build on that now. So there's going to be an attacking manager and we want, you to be part of that. How is that happening when everything's so up in the air and everything's in such limbo? You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. Planning for the summer should already be underway, but you struggle to see how it could be if they haven't made a decision on a manager. How can they sell the club's vision to a player and just go, this is our vision, but we don't know who's going to be the manager, but come and join the vision, come and join the revolution. It just we don't know who's going to lead that, but come along anyway for the ride. It'd be a laugh. They can't. Tim can't go out there and start selling the dream to these players if they doesn't know who's going to be in charge. So you're right. No. A decision has to be made one way or the other, and I just don't think they're going to make it. No. I don't think they're going to make it. And I tweeted after the game that he should be sacked.
Of course you did.
And obviously we're not going to go into too much detail, but if they were to come out and go, look, we are going to give him a new deal, then fair enough. Give him a new deal. I'm not going to be like, I can't believe they've done it. They should have sacked him. In the day, I think he should go. But
now at the end of the season,
Well, if you lose the next 2 games, then now. I know I've said in the past that sacking a manager at this stage of the season and replacing him is a risk, but I just feel like I don't. If you lose the next 2 games, it gets toxic very, very quickly beyond the toxicity that we're already seeing amongst some of the fan base, and I don't see how the club survives that and ends up being a positive season after that. But if they were to turn around and go, look, we're giving him another 3-year deal or 2-year deal, whatever it might be.
Yeah, year 18
like, okay,
months,
fine. Fine, whatever. Like, okay, at least now we know what we're going to expect over the next couple of years, which is going to be a style of football that isn't very easy on the eye, but we know can get results. And the likelihood is that if that's announced soon, then great. You should start seeing a uptick in form because the players and the manager know exactly where they stand. That then means that there's a chance we finish in the top 8, chance for Europe again, 4 years running in Europe, and you're looking at going, okay, right, at least we know where we stand. It's not going to be pretty, but it's stability and it's European football. And there's a shot at winning a trophy, potentially, which is what it's been like over the last 4.5 years.
And just the prestige of being in Europe. Fine. That's amazing for a club like ours, isn't it?
Yeah. So... But if they don't,
own it, innit? It's like own it,
just
own it, and do
just
something
get it
with
done.
it.
Just release a statement, or just release a statement. Go, look, this is our decision. Fans, things one way or the other. I think they're scared of the reaction of the fans, one way or the other.
But mate, I'm not sure I buy that, because at so many different occasions in the history of our club, like they were giving us stuff about the fans, and they give a toss how the fans react or how angry the fans might get. Like you can see by the stadium we're playing in, James. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just don't buy that. Honestly, I really don't buy that that they really care that much about the fans. They're filling the ground all the time, and that's all they're bothered about, really. As long as people are buying burgers and pints and whatever in the stadium and they're filling it up, I just don't think they're really that bothered, mate.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't understand why they can't just make a decision. There must be a reason why. There must be a reason why that decision hasn't been made. But
yeah, quite right. Just quickly then, mate. The actual game. I mean, is there anything you want to talk about from the game? I say the thing I'm most annoyed by really is the Declan Rice celebration. It's just like, grow up. Like, honestly, like people don't love you as much as you think they do. You were great for us. You were really good. Like, you're just sort of, it's just becoming a little bit like galling now. And there's no originality in what he's done there. It just feels a little bit over the top and a bit staged and a bit fake. Like, if you just didn't want to celebrate, just jog back to the halfway line, especially when you're 6-0 up. It's not like you scored a last-minute winner. And the other thing I think as well, it really wound me up when Mavropanos did it at Arsenal. It's like, you played 7 games there, mate. It's like, what are you talking about? We pay your wages now. Our fans and Arsenal's fans now pay Declan Rice's wages. Like, go and celebrate you've scored for your team you currently play for. Like, it's just old hat now. It's just that wound me up probably the most. Well, didn't wind me up. I just don't care. I just think it's stupid. Go away.
It would have felt more genuine and real had he not celebrated the 5 goals as well, the 5 previous goals with his teammates. He got 2 assists and celebrated those. Yeah. And I was actually watching him with a penalty. I was going, I wonder if he runs over to Saka if he scores. Saka scores it. So I wonder if he runs over. And he was one of the first there. And then he scores, which is fine. Which is fine. Which is absolutely fine.
Of course it is. It's like the team you currently scored. Well done.
So then when he scores and celebrates that, it's like, that's not genuine because you've just celebrated the other 5.
Performative crap.
If he'd have steered well clear of those celebrations for the other 5 goals and stood in the centre circle and waited for these teammates to celebrate.
Wait for his team to come back,
okay, fair enough. He wants to show an element of respect to his former club and to the fans that adored him. And you go, all right, fair enough, mate. But he didn't.
Yeah.
and it wasn't genuine at all. He wanted it to look like it was genuine.
Tragic.
And then after the game, he's in front of the Arsenal fans, pumping his fist and getting amongst it as well. So, like, that's fine.
So much of modern
like, celebrate. Like, you're an Arsenal
now.
player now. You've decided you wanted to go and sign for Arsenal, knowing full well that the fans are going to be incredibly annoyed at that. Like, just go and be an Arsenal player and do what you should do. Like, he was getting booed.
It was all very transactional, wasn't it? He was talking for ages when he was still at West Ham about his desire to play for the Champions League club. It's like, you know, we know that his career is like plotted out. Like, stop pretending it's sort of this big love affair with West Ham. Like, you know, it was all very transactional. You know, they gave you a chance, but that was because you were good. You use them as much as they use you. Like, it's clearly not like he sort of plays it as if it's like this Mark Noble story. It's not. Like, we know you don't love the club that much. Like, sure, you enjoyed your time there, great, and we gave you opportunity, but you earned that as well. Like, stop trying to make out like it's this big fairy tale. It's like, it's really not. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he lifted the Conference League trophy, which was great, and he was brilliant and all that sort of stuff. It's fine, but like, you're not really like, you're not a club legend. Do you know what I mean? You're not an absolute legend. You were a really good player for us, and you did, but like, stop banging on about it now. You sort of, I'd almost rather like the Payet approach. Do you know what I mean? Where he was just like, yeah, look, like, you love me more than I loved you, basically. Like, yeah, like, I don't. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like it's taking us for fools a bit. Like, Mark Noble actually cared and loved West Ham and still does. Like, Declan Rice isn't and won't. He's very much of the Rio Ferdinand mould, isn't he?
No, I think I'm not sure it goes that far. I think he does love the club. I think he had a relationship with the fans, which he would always look back on and cherish. And I think it's probably partly the reason why he didn't celebrate that goal. He didn't want to upset the fans that he feels like he's got an affiliation with still. But it's like, you can't. And I think lifting that,
one-sided, don't you think? No one cares.
But lifting that trophy as well will have added to that affiliation that he feels that he's got with the club. Being captain for 2 years, but at the end of the day, he no longer plays for us, and so don't. If you're gonna go down the route of, I'm going to show respect to my former club, but the team I currently play for is absolutely batter them in their own backyard. So I'm going to show respect by not celebrating any of the goals that we score, including my own, and I'm just going to run back to the centre circle and let the rest of my teammates do.
Yeah, I'm going to treat this day as a job, as a day at work, and I'm going to do what I've got to do and what I'm paid to do. Yeah,
he got it backwards. He decided to celebrate with all his teammates for all of their goals, and then kind of downplay the goals that mattered. Yeah, and then the moment the full-time whistle goes, he does a lap of honour, and well, say a lap of honour, but sort of lap round
another one. It's like
the home fans. But then he's straight over the Arsenal fans, pumping his fist. So that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be doing. Don't do both.
Yeah, exactly. Both. Yeah.
It's like flirting with your ex in front of your current missus. It's like, mate, what are you doing? So
pick one. I don't
know. Just pick one. Like, and at the end of the day, he didn't pick us. So
no,
screw him.
Anything else then about the game? I mean, I don't know what there is to say, mate. Like, everyone was rubbish. Everyone was woeful. Like, I don't know.
It was more than rubbish. I thought it was, like I said in that tweet, it was gutless. I think the stats say that we had 2 attempts on goal.
1 on target.
1 on target.
5 shots in total. Yeah.
It wasn't good enough from start to finish. There was a moment right in the first 5 minutes where I think Kudos nicked the ball off someone and ran forward into the final third, and it kind of petered out. But it felt like, here we go, like they're up for it, and that was in the first 5 minutes. And then I think that was the only meaningful thing that ever happened ever.
You're like this. You were like this as well. Our pass accuracy was 73%, which means more than 1 in 4 passes went astray.
Yeah, like it's just bad.
More than one quarter of every passes we attempted, like missed the target.
Yeah, like some people might go, "Oh, it's just a bad day at the office. Bad day at the office. It can't get any worse than that." It's like, well, at the end of the day, you've got like he's hauled the captain off at half time.
Do you reckon he's injured, or someone said they might have had a row?
I don't know. The guy can't run. He can't run.
No, yeah.
Like
lots of my
his legs are shot.
Arsenal mates said that today.
His legs are shot, and I just don't. I know he's captain. He shouldn't start another game this season. I just don't. And that's not because he's a terrible defender. It's not because he's a terrible defender. Because I think on his day he's a very good defender. But at the end of the day, we need someone who can run at the back, and we also need a leader. And at the moment, he's not doing either. At the moment, something's got to change there. Like the whole Ben Johnson. I don't even know what position Ben Johnson is at the moment. 1 minute he's left wing, then he's central midfield.
Yeah, go on. Sorry,
he's left wing, then he's central midfield. Then he's playing like the holding midfielder. It's like, where is he supposed to play? I mean, he even knows. It's like
anywhere but his actual position.
David Moyes is like, basically, you're playing today. Just run about. You're not in goal, so don't. Yeah, run it. You're not in goal. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, right? Put the gloves down. Yeah.
Just operate in the space where no one else is at that moment in time. And if someone else goes, you just replace them over there. You know, you could be centre back, you could be up front. Yeah. Doesn't matter, Ben. Doesn't matter as long as you play.
Right. What position are you? Don't worry, Ben. You're not in goal. But other than that, go where you play. No. Give Alphonse his gloves back.
Yeah.
Ben, put the linesman's flag down. No, Ben. No, that's it. The claret blue and the boots. That's it. Yeah. That's it, mate. Yeah, but. Other than that, wherever you fancy. Yeah, it's peculiar. An Arsenal colleague of mine made the point today that perhaps Moyes had put him there in order to help combat the threat of Bukayo Saka, which when he said it, and the fact Bukayo Saka scored 2 goals sounds like he was being marked by Ben Johnson.
Yeah, but let's be fair to Ben Johnson, because early on in the season we thought his West Ham career was over. And he's played well. I mean, there was talk about he weren't going to sign a new contract. He wasn't getting in the squad in the season. He wasn't even on the bench for a while. And there was talk that he was going to go. And
little did we know because he wanted to play number 10.
Well, yeah, but he's played 90 minutes in the last 4 games, and when he came off the bench against Sheffield United, it was like prime Declan Rice all of a sudden, and then he's been one of our better players the last 4 games. But the trouble is he's been one of our better players without playing in any specific position. But he's one of the very few, maybe the Arsenal game aside, because everyone was terrible, but he's been one of the very few that has actually put in a shift and played well. So I give him a lot of credit for that. And obviously the Arsenal game was different, but at Man United he was good. I can't even remember the Bournemouth game, thankfully. But Sheffield United came off the bench, and I thought, "Brand new, you sure this is Ben Johnson?" I don't remember him being this good. So fair play to him, but there was just so many things wrong going back to the game that I'm surprised it was only 6. It did feel like they decided they were gonna just stop at 6. When I went inside at the 6th goal, I was half expecting to hear a few more roars and it end up double figures. I was like, I'm not staying here to watch this.
Could have been 10, couldn't it? Yeah.
And then you get on Twitter and you get Arsenal fans going, you know it's bad when we're bringing El Nini on the pitch. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely 0 time for Arsenal fans, mate. Like, we literally we beat them away this season. Like they win. We are net
twice
up
this season.
For the season. I know, beat them in the League Cup and then beat them away. It's like they're absolutely delighted to have got as many points off of us as they gave us this season. Like you're at net 0 for the season. You had the League Cup in. And I make that 2 victories to 1. So an aggregate win for West Ham for the season. Happy days. Just quickly, James, we've spoken already. I personally was more than happy to see Fornals and Benrahma go. Ideally, I'd probably have held on to Fornals, but last chance for the club to cash in on him. Was it 6 million? Around that figure.
7 million, I think it was.
Maybe
7.
Yeah, all right, 6.8. Yeah. So understand why they did that. And also, I don't care what anyone says. Ben Johnson has got as many goals this season as Said Benrahma has. So I got no time whatsoever for anyone going, I should have kept Benrahma. He was offering absolutely sod all. He wasn't committed to the club. His head was gone. Good riddance. And I understand why they let Fornals go because, get some money for him. He's off the end of the season anyway. Would his contribution have been worth 7 million quid between now and the end of the year? Probably not. Which brings me on nicely to my next point. Just briefly, James, because we've hit the 1 hour mark you wanted to cap it at. You think Calvin Phillips, you think that's a good signing or not? I've seen him a couple of times now. Personally, it just seemed like another one of them. It's like, we don't need someone there. We'll buy a striker or a defender or one of the positions we need. or whatever position it is Ben Johnson plays.
Yeah, we said before we had our break that we thought it was a good signing, but at the same time a signing that we didn't really need. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah.
Like, very surprised that he started the Bournemouth game for his debut, and I know we haven't spoken since then. That goal has been blamed on Calvin Phillips. It was Kurt Zuma's fault. That pass.
Oh yeah, it weren't 100%
to Calvin Phillips. Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm watching the game, and you got because I didn't go because it was the day I started my new job, so I thought I better not go. You've got the commentators basically nailing Calvin Phillips, going, "Oh, what a terrible start! A nightmare start to his West Ham career." Yeah. It's that weren't his fault. That was Kurt Zuma giving him a hospital pass.
Yeah. It was a 60-40 Kurt Zuma, 60-40 Phillips. He could have done better with that.
Yeah,
but
maybe. But he comes to the bench against United and does okay. I didn't even see him play against Arsenal to even warrant an opinion. But my problem with it is that it's given David Moyes a dilemma that we just don't need. We don't need what's the best midfield combination? Like, we don't need that. We've got so many of them that any combination gives us a relatively decent level of balance.
Yeah, it's like the strongest part of our team, isn't it? The most consistent.
What's the point? Like, we shouldn't be debating about what's the best midfield that we can put out of all of our 900 midfielders. Like, I'd rather us go, right, okay, what's the dilemma?
0 left wingers or 0 strikers.
Which lethal striker should we start this week? How many goals do we want to score? Let's put the more lethal striker on, the one that can score 12 instead of the one that can score 9.
Yeah.
Like that's what we should be worried about. Instead, we're just
which defender should we put on? The one who can't walk, or the Greek bloke who's got an absolute clanger in him every single week, or the Moroccan fella who was supposed to be the next best thing since Franz Beckenbauer, but actually, turns out he's absolutely nothing like that at all. And
he's bang average.
Actually, he's probably the problem. Yeah, bang average. Yeah. No, very weird, mate. Very weird. Right. Okay. I'll tell you what, James. I won't do final thoughts. What we'll do, I'll just get a quick sort of thing from you now, a little bit of a look ahead, and then hopefully we'll have a Nottingham Forest opposition view bolted onto the end of this chat. Talk about easing our way back in. It's been a bit of a frantic time for James and I, though. Not had loads of time between me getting back off holiday and getting this pod out. So, try and get Nottingham Forest view. Looking ahead then, Jonesy, do you fancy that? What about this, right? 20 quid charity bet. I think West Ham will get 7 or more points from the next 4 games. If they do, you got to give 20 quid to the Bobby Moore Fund. And if they don't, they get 6 or less, I'll give 20 quid to the DT38 Foundation.
What if I think we'll get more than 7?
Well, I don't think you do. I put that to you earlier on, and you said
no, I don't think we'll get more than 7. Yeah, okay, I'll take the bet. You're on. I'm up for that.
Yeah, all right, nice one, cool. Talk to me then. Nottingham Forest, very briefly. Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff at the City Ground. They're not exactly superb, are they? 16th in the league. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, when you go on Google, West Ham's win probability is 33% compared to Nottingham Forest 40%. So yeah, I mean, maybe not as encouraging for the betters. I thought. They lost 3-2 at home to Newcastle on the weekend and managed to overcome our FA Cup foes, Bristol City, on penalties on Wednesday. Yeah, drew away at Bournemouth, lost to Arsenal. They can't buy a win either, quite frankly. Jonesy, yeah, what are you expecting from the game? I reckon we'll win.
Well, I watched their game against Newcastle and thought they looked all right. But they're dangerous in attack. Langer's looking good, very quick. Gibbs White's always a danger. But I think we'll probably get a draw there. I don't really see us winning if we're playing the way we are.
And the limbo carries on.
Yeah, I just feel so indifferent to it after that game of the weekend. I just feel so indifferent. I don't see us improving.
Yeah,
and it stems from the fact that we've come out the back end of a transfer window with a weaker squad, a thinner squad.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think it's necessarily weaker. It's thinner.
What it is. If it's thinner, it's weaker, right? Like if you've got no cover, if you end up you're playing a left back at left wing because you've sold 2 left wingers and not replaced them.
Yeah.
Like
the Fornals, I would have ideally kept Fornals, but hey.
Yeah. And that is what it is. It's happened now. But as a result of it happening, and as a result of the form that we've been in since the turn of the year, yeah, it's just like we scored 4 goals in 7 games, and 2 of those were penalties, for crying out loud. Like, and you think we're going to go to Nottingham Forest and get a result? I just don't see it happening. And I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I hope I'm so wrong. It's embarrassing. But something's telling me that I'm going to be bang on.
No, I think it'll be all right, mate. I think it'll be all right. Ugly one. Right, okay. We'll do Betway charity bets next, actually. And then you'll hopefully hear a Nottingham Forest opposition view. Actually, James, will we release that later in the week? Why don't we do that? We were doing that earlier in the season, weren't we? This is 1 hour and 7 minutes. Why don't we release the Nottingham Forest one later in the week, shall we? All right. Yeah. Well, that's it for this podcast then. You'll get another one later this week, Nottingham Forest opposition view. It's a nice little bite-sized 1 hour 7 minutes for you. Don't forget, follow us on all our social media. We are _West Ham, on Twitter. We are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Please do go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't bother with Facebook anymore. I think I might have accidentally deleted that while I was on holiday. So don't worry about Facebook, but do go and follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our channel there, please. We are West Ham Podcast. You search for, and it will flash up. Watch some of the videos, get involved in the comments, etc., etc. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to the pod. And of course, as I reminded you earlier, you can buy me and James a pint if you want. I think James needs cheering up somewhat. Me and James are doing a 10K run together in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll certainly be having a beer or 2 after that. If you fancy chipping into that fund, go to buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham and you can buy us a pint or 2 for me and James to share together if you want to. I think that's about it. Yeah, you just search us anywhere you fancy on social media, really. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Hope you're glad we're back. Thanks to those of you who got in touch and sent us some messages while we were away telling us how much you were looking forward to the pod coming back. Well, here we are. We're back once again. And yeah, West Ham lost 6-0 to Arsenal at the weekend. I don't think there's too much more to say, but me and James have got our charity bet for the next 4 games coming up. I've got some weird optimism just based on what's gone before, where David Moyes always pulls out a few results when we're in trouble. I don't think it'll be pretty, but I don't think anyone's expecting West Ham games to be pretty these days, are they? Never mind, still in Europe, last 16, still 8th in the league. It could be much worse, and that is all we've really got to hold on to at the moment. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for being patient with us. Up the Hammers. West Ham United are massive, and we'll see you later this week.